we're going to. Hi there. Hi. Got it. All right. So, hello, my name is Nanette Nolan. I am the Director of Membership this year for 33rd District PTA. It is my privilege to serve as your guys' membership chair. Please note that this is my last year, as it's a 2-year term at the 33rd District. So next year, you guys are going to have an amazing new person, April Walker, coming out of Long Beach. She's going to be amazing and dynamic, and you guys are going to love her, and she'll be your resource. But you can always reach out to anyone at 33rd District. We love to be helpful. And so that's that. Let me get my little notes up. Apologies again. So good evening. Thank you for joining me tonight. I would ask that everybody remain muted until we get to the question and answer sections. At that point, I'll go and pull questions from the chat, and I'll gladly take questions live. I also want you to know that this training is largely going to focus on the planning aspect of the membership game plan. So there are detailed recordings out there, and I'm going to send those to you too, for things like marketing your PTA, for additional resources, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there's a lot of really great recorded stuff that I will be sending you as a follow-up message. So have no fear for that. But this one will largely talk about the planning. So thinking about, from this moment forward until kind of the initial execution, and then there'll be more trainings in the fall, and then again in the spring, and probably more sprinkled throughout the year. So you'll be getting more stuff as time goes on to kind of help you be amazing at your role. If you think about membership, if you think about membership like we do our health, right, our fitness, you can't simply go to the gym once and consider it done. I've never, ever, I wish, but I've never ran a mile and then felt like I lost 5 pounds. Or maybe I felt like I lost 5 pounds, but I actually lost no pounds. So I think that's how we have to think of membership, is that it's a continual effort that builds on itself, but you've got to put work in order to see the results, right? So we got to think about membership as a long, continuous process. In today's training, we're going to cover every single thing you're going to want to know. And then we can talk about specifics. We'll have some time baked in for that as well. I'll share the recorded training and the resources, but I want to help you think about your role and what to do now to be in shape for the next several months. California State PTA and 33rd District PTA will continue to provide training and tools throughout the year, again, just to kind of continue to support your efforts. Before we dig into the training, I want to make sure that everyone has the same understanding of the terms and the responsibilities for your role. So first, we have the unit, which you guys are familiar with, which is essentially your school's PTA. My kids went to North High School in Torrance, and they were members of the North High School PTA. Council is a leadership group that supports your unit with training, communication, collecting reports, data from you, and they're often working across your school district. So, for instance, if you're a member of Perry in Redondo, your unit is supported by Redondo Beach Council. Which brings me to 33rd District, which is a little bit of a tricky one to explain. At the 33rd District PTA, we support dozens of councils and nearly 300 units in a small section of Southern California. It's a lot of people. So you see, California State PTA is broken up into all these districts, and we are in number 33, which is the best one, arguably. We provide training and mentoring and communication, and we also collect info to send to state PTA. We're also the link between the California State PTA and the councils and units, so we're kind of that bridge. So when we refer to district, it's just related to the 33rd District. If we were to say something like school district, then we're referring to the school district. So I promise it gets a little less confusing over time. Not every single unit has a council. Some units are considered out of council or OOC, and they use the district PTA as basically their leadership group in place of a council. So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. And we're all part of the California State PTA, and they support all of the units across California and all of the councils and all of the districts. They do that with training, with resources, and we're also members of the National PTA, which supports all PTAs across the United States. So one quick note about all PTAs, we are all 501c3 nonprofit associations. So beyond being volunteers, we are also members and leaders within nonprofit organizations. Congratulations. If that's the first time you've heard that, let that sink in. As I mentioned, we're all leaders within our nonprofit organizations, and Our members make up our association. So the association, as we call it, has the final say on things like budget, spending, approval, board members, chairs, contracts, and more. We hold meetings with our association a few times a year. We also have a working group that you belong to, and that's either called your board of directors or maybe it's your executive board. Not sure what maybe you guys call yours, but those are kind of the two common terms. And that's the working group that's basically carrying out the wishes of the association, running the programs, running fundraisers, promoting membership, thinking about advocacy, hopefully acting on, hopefully advocating. And it brings all the things that I mentioned kind of in front of your association for periodic review. So you guys will have one at back to school night, right? Where you guys meet with your association, have them vote on some stuff, and then you'll meet again for elections, and then again toward the end of the year. I won't get into that too much, but just we're talking about, the first kind of 2 terms here. And then we also have bylaws and standing rules, which tell you who can be on your board, when your meetings are, both the association and your board meetings, and a lot of really important information about dues and collections. And then you have standing rules, which are the specific guidelines to your unit, and kind of gets into the weeds, into the details. So I'm going over terminology again, just because I feel like I can't assume that we all come from the same backgrounds and have the same level of history. So I try to level set. I would encourage you guys to do the same. Again, it helps everyone just feel like they're on the same page, and that's really important, right? So the next term I wanted to go over, just to, again, make sure we've level set, dues. So dues are simply the amount of money that a person pays to have their membership annually. This is determined by your bylaws and cannot be changed just on whim. You have to go through a bylaws review process. The only exception being if California state or national PTA were to change the dues, like, this summer there's a dues rate increase discussion and a vote at the national PTA. I'll get more into that at the very, very tail end. If something was like that was to pass, that might be kind of a shock. And you're like, well, I don't have time to do a bylaws review process. There is a provision that allows you to increase your dues accordingly to meet that, and not basically have to go into the red. But otherwise, you can't simply just decide to increase your dues and then just do it. You'd have to go. There is a full-on bylaws review process and approval process that is several months long, sometimes just several weeks. But so I do want you to check your bylaws, know what you're supposed to charge, so that all your material is reflecting the correct information. I know a lot of you guys are probably busy thinking about next year's registration drives. As a member chair, you also hear the term remit and through channels and funds not belonging to a unit a lot. These might be some new terms for some of you who are very, very new, and that's okay. When a person joins a PTA at your unit, they are joining your unit plus council plus your 33rd district plus California State PTA plus national PTA. So a portion of what you collect from a person, let's say $10, goes to your unit plus those other entities, because they basically bought membership into all of the levels of PTA up to national, which is pretty cool. I don't know one $10 thing that I do that gives me that much say or vote or anything. So each month your financial team needs to forward or remit a portion of the dues listed in your bylaws to either the council or the district if you're out of district. So for example, if you have a $10 member dues, you keep $4, let's say, and the rest goes to your council. And then they kick up the portion that goes up to district, and district kicks a check out to California State PTA, and California State PTA kicks it up to national. Roughly, that's kind of how it works. And then, that's kind of how that all works. And I'll get into the why in a moment. The last in our vocabulary lesson, coming to an end, is about totem. So you're going to hear totem a lot. If you're really, really new to PTA, this might be like, what's she even talking about? It's the California State PTA electronic membership tool, and it's used by a vast majority of our units and our councils, and obviously at 33rd district. And it collects the dues basically, if you're selling them through that. So it's a mobile app. It's also a web page or website. So it's a cloud-based tool that you can sell memberships through. You don't pay anything to use it at the unit level. The only probably caveat is that if I'm buying a membership, let's say again for $10, I pay as the end user a $1 service charge. And I know that might be like eyebrow raising for some folks, but for me, I'm only buying 3 or 4 at a time. Like, I think I care about the convenience more. If I was buying 30, I wouldn't want to pay 30 bucks in fees. I'd probably write them a check or drop off some cash. So I would recommend, thinking about how you use Totem and then making sure that there are alternatives when other people feel a little squirrely about the fees. Not a big deal, just knowing that we use Totem pretty frequently. And so we'll talk about that. And it has kind of like a different set of instructions a little bit. It's, again, the California State PTA's official tool. And, not all units do use it. So if you're not using it and you're kind of interested, let me know. If you are using it, that's awesome. Thank you. And yeah, but you can also collect through a variety of other tools. So there's, Cheddar Up and Member Planet and a whole bunch of other ones. PTZ still has options, I think, for collecting membership and setting up stores. So, whatever your unit is doing. And if, you're just, like I said, looking for more tools, let me know. But however you collect, that's fine. Just know that Totem is this really magical little tool in that when I buy my membership once a month, what happens is it hits our unit's bank account, our council's bank account, our districts, state and national, and then it's like done. I don't have to do anything. So that's beautiful. Now it's just one tool, but it is a cool tool and kind of has, like I said, separate implications. So just know that. So membership is vital. Well, actually, you know what? I'll pause and let me know if anybody had any questions. I didn't see anything in chat, so I feel like we're probably good. Again, you can also private message me if you're like, oh, I don't want everyone to know that I don't know what this term is. No judgment. All right, I see nothing. So that means you guys are complete pros now in this terminology. Members are vital. Without membership, we simply don't have a PTA. I can't say it any more clearly than that. Oh, I did get a question. Thank you. Who should we have in Totem? Ooh, I will get to that. No, actually, I can get to that now. I would say, so right now, your current board has minimum probably the president, the membership chair, and the treasurer. That's like bare minimum. But if you're a unit, you could actually, whoever is a leader on the Totem tool, and I can show you that toward the end, can add all of the new board members. You have to use a personal email address because PTA email addresses get passed around year over year, but it really is kind of dependent on the unit. So some units may put every single board member. Some may only put the people who, are kind of in the top leadership positions. Again, we're all leaders, but, your president, your treasurer, maybe your financial secretary, if you have one, your membership chair. And if your membership chair is like under someone like the director of something, then maybe them. So that's kind of a discussion you probably have internally. You can add them as soon as now, but for sure, July 1 is the start date. And then you want to make sure that your current treasurer and your incoming treasurer, if they're not one and the same, are also, meeting up and doing like the changing of hands for the bank account. I hope that answered the question. But if you ever do find that you're kind of stuck and you don't know, reach out to your council. And if you're not in council, reach out to district and we can access that on the back end too and help you kind of like sort that out. But for sure, try to look at it before, the year transitions and everyone's in summer mode. So thank you for that question. Okay, so back to the goodies. If you have other questions, last question. Why do councils have access to all units totems? And why can they deposit money in our bank account without telling anyone, without 2 signatures? Oh, okay. So I think there might be some lack of clarity there. So first of all, every council has access to their units records so that we can keep track. Like there's really nothing nefarious. We can't do anything. I don't have access to my bank account, like my council, district, or units bank account, nor do you. So that is reserved really just for the treasurer. And if there's like a double verification that happens when they set it up. And what this is the tool basically, Totem is reading that Nanette Nolan purchased a $10 membership. It gets held until like the end of the month. I don't remember which date, 25th, 28th or something like that. And then at that point, it isn't deposited by district or anybody. The tool automatically sets to deposit it to your bank, the portion that's due to you per your dues. The portion that goes to council goes directly to council. Again, there's no human interaction. That is just an automatic divvying up of cash. So, $4.25 stays with your unit. Let's say, 50 cents to district, 125 to your council, 225 to I don't know, state, and I think it's like 125 or something like that. I don't know what the numbers are, 200 or something. No, $2 maybe to state and 225. I don't know, something. Can't see it. I don't know it offhand. So anyhow, that's all that is. I hope that was helpful. Somebody else had a totem related question. Ooh, so much totem stuff. I will also send you guys a totem training. So I think that'll be hopefully really more helpful than my bumbling through this. So one more totem related question. Is there a fee, and is that fee paid by a PTA or the member signing up? Great question. So that fee, that $1 that you pay per membership, is paid by the member, so that your PTA is never charged to use totem. The only other thing that I would say is probably like one thing to consider is there's a 5% fee on donations. Now I will tell you, every time you do a credit card transaction through like PayPal or PTZ or, MemberClicks or whatever, there is a fee, a processing fee, because that's just how that all works. So 5% sounds like a lot, but you're only saving maybe a percentage or two off of some of the other tools. And again, you don't have to use that portion of the tool. You can kind of toggle it off if you wanted. You could keep it that way. And if people were going to give you a massive donation, they're better off writing you a check, like honestly. So I think that might be like a communication piece you think about as you're thinking about whether or not you use totem and to what degree. If you're getting pushback and you need help, like pitching it, let me know. I'm happy to still help and help you kind of sort that out before the year's end. You don't need approval. It's an approved tool. Basically, your president, if you don't have one already, or aren't already on totem, your president would connect with the treasurer. They would do some quick stuff. I promise, like super quick, like using routing and verifying the account number, and then it's like done. So I hope that answered. I'm going to pause on the totem stuff just so I can get through, and then if there's still questions, I'll stay on afterward too to kind of help anyone who wanted to navigate or look at anything. All right, thank you guys so much. That was so awesome. All right, so members are vital. And without members, we simply don't have a PTA. Members are the driving force behind our volunteer base. Our current and future leaders can be engaged sorry, somebody was trying to pop in. Behind our member base, our current and future leaders, or feed into our current and future leaders, and can be engaging advocates and partners. And they're basically lockstep with us and as being the voice of the students in school communities. So without members, we don't have associations. Without members, we don't have PTAs. Like that's just really is. Membership is not a fundraiser, but the funds that we do raise go across every level of PTA in important ways. So, again, at your school, you take every dollar raised and you fund field trips and science and music programs and more. At the council level and the district level, those dues fund things like educational workshops for families and guardians, homeless student programs, sometimes programs that support low-income families, grants and scholarships and training. And at the national and state PTA, their portion goes toward their advocacy efforts in a major way. And they use that money actually, for many of their programs. So when you go to the training or convention or, listen in on a webinar, like all that costs money. And that's basically what we're all collectively contributing to. So hopefully that's helpful, but it all comes back to your school in that, and your children, in that the policies that are passed that are good for your students, things that are, going to be important at some point later, like literacy programs or curriculum changes or, family engagement, bills that go through. That stuff is all really, really important. And does come back to us in that we have trained people, in our PTA, and then our children and families reap the benefit of really all, good legislation and things that we kind of co-sponsor or support. And so every single member has a deep and profound impact, not just on their students, but the families and children all across the United States. And that's kind of massive. I'll get into a little bit more of the why later, but I mean, one thought to think of is that when you think of organizations like, I don't know, the NRA or whomever, political parties, they have donors with deep pockets. There's sometimes only a handful of people who are funding these mega groups, mega donors. That's not PTA. We are grassroots as it gets, largely volunteer-based, doing it out of the good of our hearts. A lot of us work, also do other volunteering. You guys are really amazing folks. And we should be singing each other's praises. I think members don't maybe always see what we do. So I feel like we'll get into more of that later, but just saying, I think, it's important to think of why membership is important as we're kind of driving the discussion and trying to drive these efforts. One last bit of important information before we dive into training, I promise, is I want you guys to all have a copy of your current bylaws. Make sure that you check the dues and that all your materials and references or all your materials are referencing the correct number. So again, it's a long process to change dues. You can't simply increase them without updating your bylaws, but be sure to do that. And if you don't know where to get it or who to harass, start with your president, incoming or outgoing, and your predecessor, your membership person. A lot of times they may have a copy and they hand it off. I do want to make it known that those can't just be widely distributed. There's actually really sensitive tax ID information on the back. So, we don't just kind of let them hang out online or shoot them around via email generally. So if people have been a little stingy, that might be why we're all a little nervous. Also, be sure to get your procedure book from your predecessor. If you're laughing hysterically right now with your camera off and thinking, dumb girl, there's no such thing as a procedure book in PTA. There is somewhere. But if not, hopefully what you have is access to past flyers, and you can ask for these overtly. You totally should. Ask for past flyers, what events they've done, what contests, if they have numbers to pass on to you. You can also get some of that from your council, like the past numbers. And if they don't have it, we also have it at 33rd District. One great resource is the California State PTA Toolkit. So if you're like, I didn't get anything, guess what, friend? You're making that procedure book, but that's okay. Like I said, there is, in the California State PTA, there's this whole section dedicated to what your roles and responsibilities are. They've got a great leadership website now that has a lot of resources there, and National PTA is a treasure trove. So just know you're not alone. You're not without resources. Membership is important. And so it's well supported all across PTA. So, but hopefully you get some good stuff and insider intel from your current person, because that would be ideal. And the National PTA tools are pretty, like I said, pretty awesome. If you're stuck and you can't find what you need, reach out, reach out to your immediate past board, reach out to your council, again, reach out to us, totally happy to help. If you're expecting that your unit, we're also expecting that your unit remits monthly, sorry. But that won't start into the fall, which is cool. If you're using Totem, that'll happen over the summer. You'll start seeing like members that you never did anything to earn. They just said, yes, I'll renew. And then they magically did. It's going to be awesome. So yeah, in Totem, it's automatically handled for you. But one of the other ways that you can do this is, so in the fall, what will happen is when people start handing you check, cash, change, whatever, and if you're collecting through a second or third electronic payment system, again, like PayPal, or they're able to do it through your store or whatever, you will every month be working with your financial team, and they'll be cutting a check in the amount that goes to, your council, district, state, and national. You don't have to do the math. They should have that number right there, but it's good for you guys to be in line and finding out like how many members they've remitted for, and making sure that your membership report number every month matches what they say. And if it's off, just knowing why it's off, could be that maybe the totem hasn't deposited, or you got a couple of, people came in underneath the wire. We also host contests most months. So, there's like 100% teachers or 100 members in 100 days. So you will be provided with those contest rules from your council, or again, if you're out of council, you'll get that from 33rd District directly. And then you'll have, basically sometimes you'll have a form to complete. Sometimes it's just based on due date. So knowing when your council is expecting you to cut a check is kind of important. So you want to always kind of check in with your unit president, because every month your council should probably give them like a list or a readout of what's due. And the expectation usually is at that executive board meeting, or that meeting that your council hosts that the unit president goes to on the monthly basis, they usually bring a check with them, or there's a due date when checks are expected to be delivered to the council so they could be counted. So keep track of those. If some of these contests are ones that you guys have, let's say you got 100% teachers, amazing, that's awesome. You should be rewarded for that. But if it isn't, like if you didn't submit the application in time, or you didn't get the money in time, you don't get the credit for all your hard work. So just know that knowing when your council is expecting cash in hand in order for it to qualify and move along, and give you your just deserves, your good rewards, That's pretty important. You'll also want to share incentives with your members and consider holding contests or special rewards or goodies for members. This will look different depending on your school culture, what your principal and president feel, on board with, your board members. So I won't get into that too much here, but just know that, thinking about incentives and then knowing that the California State PTA also goes out and pitches and promotes freebies, goodies, and discounts for members. You also want to keep track on a monthly basis of your membership in a roster. Your council can and should and may ask for rosters, and that's a-okay. Those members that belong again to your association do not belong strictly to your association, and nothing nefarious is happening when it goes to council, district, state, or national. We're just pulling this together in like a database. I'm not even sure if it ever gets pulled together in a master database. I think maybe. I guess I'd have to check on that, to be honest with you. I know what I do with it, which is usually just message members when really important stuff comes up, maybe like workshops or other kind of, things that are great for parents and guardians, stuff like that, opportunities, scholarships, and anyhow. So just know that's keeping track of your members is important. You might decide to add them to Totem if you're using Totem. Totally up to you and your council, how you guys arrange that, but you should be tracking them, and you should definitely keep their information handy, because as you go through the year, you're going to need it at your association meetings, during elections. Your nominating committee is going to need a copy when they get, go to start deliberating and looking for candidates for next year's slate. So just know, as it gets closer, we'll dig into this more, but that's kind of another expectation and a thing I want you guys to kind of keep in your mind. And then remember that membership numbers will need to be reported on a monthly basis to your board. So the expectation is maybe you're at the board meeting, maybe you're not, but you absolutely want to make sure that you get to your unit president. And if you're under a director or a vice president, that you tell them every month what your number is and what efforts you're putting toward, in the following months or whatever. And it's nothing wild. I mean, as you get through the year, hopefully you have more and more good news, and you want to report out which, how you guys are doing, and, what maybe grades are doing good, or, what teachers have really kicked butt. So it's totally up to you, but I think bring the good news. That's what I'm saying. And then lastly, and remember that your membership numbers will need to be reported on I said that already. Never mind. I'm so good. So anyhow, that's like kind of where I wanted to leave us before we get into the training. I see there's a couple of questions. I'm going to pause real quick. So somebody said, is there a site where we can get membership theme ideas? Yes, and I will send it to you. And I have a section here where I talk about planning and some tools, because again, this is going to look different for each of you. If you have a big PTA group and you guys are all gung-ho, that's going to look very different than a small, merry band of 6 board members just trucking along trying to make it. So to try to give you a one-size-fits-all would be silly and wrong, but I can show you where the treasure trove of all the goodies is. So I will absolutely get that to you. Best strategy, promote first day of school for membership. I can get into some of that too, and kind of get into some of the tactics. I think will look a little different depending on your school and the age of the students coming through it, whether or not parents accompany them, like in elementary versus like high school, where teenagers are showing up by themselves. So you might have to get kind of crafty. And then let's see, who should remit membership money? Remit membership money, treasurer or membership chair? Good question. It should be your financial team. So how that actually looks is, all right, I'm a membership chair at a unit, right? The beginning of the year comes and I've got tons of envelopes, tons, full of money, full of checks. I call up another board member and I'm like, okay, this money is all in the safe at the school. Come with me. We'll sit down and count it. I count it out right in front of my colleague. He counts it out. He verifies that the number's correct. There's a cash verification form that maybe your unit already uses. If not, there's one on California State PTA, or you could even order one sometimes through your district. Like the ones that have the auto, I don't think they're called carbon copies anymore, but you can have the one with like the 3 copies and you get the pink or yellow. So anyhow, 2 people will count it from your board and then verify, sign, and then you guys will have the treasurer, or if you have a financial secretary, I think your unit will tell you who picks that money up. And then they're responsible for counting it a third time and then depositing it. So that's why you want to be like the check and balance, right? So at the end of it, you know what you got, you know what you counted, and then your financial team has deposited said money, has a number that they're reporting every month when they come to their board meeting, and then that number should match. So it's really just verifying like nothing went sideways. Not that it would, not that it should, but I hope that's helpful. And then, yeah, you just kind of keep track, and then separately what you do with all those empty envelopes or, you know, little slips of paper that tell you who bought a membership, as then, you know, you and maybe a couple of people who feel crafty and have nothing else going on entered in a database or something. So I hope that that's helpful. That's a good question though. I guess I hadn't thought about that. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, okay. I want to focus on 4 key areas of membership and kind of the promotion. So first, we have to think about, you know, it's kind of, I'm thinking of the warm up. Before you get to doing anything, think about who you're trying to reach. Why does it matter to them? And how do we develop messages and calls to action that kind of grab their attention, grab their hearts, right? So those are kind of important things. Like before you ever even really get to going, that should be a key consideration. Then we can talk about a year-long plan and how to set up your goals and where to find some of the resources. We can dive into how membership can be the bridge to all of your school community and why membership is kind of essential for bringing in new people. Your role is a ton more important than I bet you knew. And then last, we can talk about the resources to kind of help you continue to grow your knowledge and your skills throughout the year. So this is a rough time because I'm sure you're wearing maybe multiple PTA hats and trying to also get yourself up to speed for next year. But just know, like, take your time during the summer, knowing that it's going to be crazy again in the fall. But if you do the planning and all the good work now, it'll make the fall feel much less crazy than it would be, I promise you. So in terms of thinking about the messaging and profiles and kind of giving some consideration, before you can really start to talk to people about why membership matters, you want to first think about who makes up your school community, right? So parents and guardians, teachers, staff, extended family members, alumni, community members, our students. There's probably a ton more people that I haven't thought of, but just start thinking about the people in your neighborhood, the people at your school. What motivates one person doesn't motivate another. I'm a warm, squishy, fuzzy person, and I love all the feel goods. I love volunteering because it's like my secret high. For other people, you know, being involved or even becoming a member, like, could be that they want to be involved in their kids' school. Maybe they want all the benefit to come to their child, and that's why they join. Some people want to be insiders. Maybe they just feel like there's an additional benefit that their kids get that other students don't get. I don't know. And there's some people that just honestly want to help, but they don't have time for much else. So just kind of think about the different motivators. What motivates you? What motivates people that you know? Why do people not join? You know, so knowing that stuff is kind of important, and you only know that by having discussions with people. Honestly, not everyone knows what a PTA is, so have you really spelled out what your PTA does for your students? That should be a pitch that you can work on maybe with your unit president, or if you get the chance to be the person who's on stage welcoming people or whatever, make sure that you guys have always kind of a quick list of all the things that you guys do, because you do a lot. You know, do you fund educational programs and art programs and run the library and pay for field trips? The answer is yes. Yes, you guys do, because you're amazing. You know, and if you don't know, ask your board or look up your budget, your unit's budget, and in the program line items, you can use that to develop your list. You know, if you're new to your unit and you don't really know much about what they've done historically, no shame, you know, just ask, and just know that there's, you know, there are answers out there. Maybe that person may not be in a position to join right now. You know, not all of us have, you know, got it going on like that. Sometimes people hit financial rough spots, and we have to be sensitive to that, and they want to help, but they may not feel like they have enough money to make a difference. So just let people know that where the money goes, a portion stays with the school and a small portion goes to advocacy or resources. Or better yet, if you think that that doesn't help your cause, just talk about what your PTA does. Support us because we support your children with all of this, you know, all the time. Another challenge might be that people think they have to join the board or volunteer. Gasp, right? I wish, but we know that that's not the case. But we all know that usually, you know, before you're a volunteer or a PTA leader, you're a member. So although the it just gives them an opportunity and an in. Make sure that your parents and family and guardians know that they're not required to do anything else. If this is all they do, which we hope that's not all they do, but that's okay. Like, this is the bare minimum. This is like what we're asking you for. You know, and I think once people feel invested, they're more likely to attend stuff. They're more likely to see that they contributed, right? So please do encourage people to volunteer any way that they can, but let them know too, it's okay, whatever giving means to them, like that's okay with us too. And a lot of times it comes down to a person's capacity. You know, I'm doing this on a weeknight because I have a day job. You know, a lot of you guys are here and you probably have a lot of competing stuff and other things you could be or could have been doing tonight. So a lot of times it's the ability to participate, not that a parent or guardian doesn't have interest, but they don't have time, bandwidth, energy. Sometimes they don't feel comfortable with the language. There's a whole host of reasons why people don't participate. And a lot of it usually isn't because they don't care. So just remember that. But again, as you're thinking about your pitches, thinking about your groups, maybe you've got an image in mind of a few people you can think of, ask people why they don't join, and then think of reasons that they might join. You know, so for others, maybe they're enticed by perks. You know, I've known a lot of people. I remember doing a middle school dance one time, a couple of years actually in a row, where we had put out all this like yummy, tasty treats, free drinks, and the whole bit. And all they had to do was buy a membership. I think we got like 55 kids to sign up. It was the weirdest thing because I was like, I can't believe that people would, you know, buy membership just so that they could, you know, get the perk. But let's be honest, you know, $10 seems like not a bad thing for an hour and a half of, you know, your kid hanging out after school for clean fun. I guess that's a thing. So anything can be a motivator. Just think about it. Even your teachers, you know, think about the things that motivate them. So for some people, perhaps they have concerns about whether or not your PTA wants or needs them. You know, we've heard lots of times, I'm sure you guys too, that PTAs are cliques. Oh, I cringe every time I hear people call it a mom's club. You know, so people might also be turned off, and they may have, you know, people, especially at the elementary, if you have many kids, you've been there for ages, you may have a long history of seeing the same PTA. So you need to make sure that if that is the case, and you've had like a weird, not totally welcoming vibe, that you guys do as much as you can to counteract that, you know, to be present and to be, you know, there for everybody. So anyhow, those are kind of, again, thoughts to think about. We can talk more about, you know, membership profiles and other specific concerns, but those are kind of like the things that often bubble to the surface for me. Good planning starts with good data. So ask your principal about the languages spoken at very least. You know, is there a resource for translated material? I will also show you that where National PTA has some cool resources for multiple languages, which I also think is pretty rad. And if you have school groups like English language learners or cultural groups or support groups, you know, like Booster Club or yeah, like booster clubs, I guess is the one I think of. I know of some schools that have like groups that are kind of like Japanese, you know, parents and guardians who, you know, kind of coalesce, and maybe they do some fundraising or help to do other stuff. Whatever the groups are that are in your group, you know, in your school community, reach out to them and see, you know, at very least, will they talk to you and give you some insights? At very most, maybe they start becoming part of your board and your volunteer group. Having conversations with other families, teachers, and staff can really provide a wealth of information. It's nothing like a good conversation. You know, again, just trying to figure out what's important to them and what your PTA could mean. And again, a lot of times people just don't know. That it's nothing personal. They just simply don't know. Now you may ask, what does this have to do with membership? I thought this was just running a drive in the fall or something. Because membership is valuable and a full year effort. Your role is more than an email or a single form. It's really kind of about building relationships the entire year. So that's what it comes down to, is I think that, you know, your role is to be the voice on the board that keeps speaking about membership and the importance of membership and engaging members and growing membership. Like, people are going to be so sick of membership. It's going to be great. But it's so important, and I'm glad that you guys are here doing this. So plan to be out at as many school events as you possibly can, you know, and if not you, get some buddies. You know, we can't all be everywhere at once. We have a bad habit, I would say, maybe some of us more than others, of doing a lot by themselves when really we should be teaming up or pairing up with folks. So I would just encourage you to, like, try to find a buddy or two, or speak with your board about supporting membership at each of the events that come up. I'm thinking back to school night. I'm thinking first day of school. I'm thinking a welcome desk outside. I'm thinking any kind of welcome family things, any kind of orientations over the summer. Like, you guys should be there at every single thing. And you don't have to just have your hand out for money, but that should always be an option. And again, just preaching like the benefits of your PTA and how it basically impacts the families there at that school. So that's important stuff. I got another question about totem. I'm going to hold that till the end just so I can get through the bulk of it. If I don't get back to it by the end, feel free to repop that to the top of the question box. Someone said, can we do both in-person and Zoom meetings for each meeting? Yes, but I think you have to probably, again, that's probably a board discussion and decision. So I wouldn't say it's a no. I think it's totally fine. Somebody wanted to share an idea. Thank you. Sussman PTA has successfully had 100% teachers with the incentive of food choice for their teacher appreciation week. That's a cool idea. I love that. Another person said, can parents sponsor their teachers membership to reach 100% teacher participation goal with permission from the teacher, of course? I think that last piece is the key. You can't have somebody or force them, right, into being a member of an organization or association. But if, you offered to gift it to them and they said yes, there's no harm. I mean, I don't know that we care where the money comes from, as long as we know that we have an active member who understood. So, yeah, I would definitely say that's a good idea. I mean, could be a cool idea. And then recommend diversifying registration materials, paper registration versus totem. Absolutely. Yeah. Case being, okay, so I think I'm an exennial, which is like millennial-ish. Anyhow, and I love digital everything. Everything is digital. I don't love paper. I write on my tablet. Like, that's my jam. But my grandmother, my 80-something-year-old grandmother, just stopped. I think the youngest of the cousins she was helping to raise at 80-something. She's a checkbook gal. She won't even give you her cash because she doesn't trust you, but she's a checkbook lady. So I think you have to think that in the world of membership, in the world of the, who's in your school, there's so many people who don't or can't access things. I actually have known people who don't have checkbooks, i.e. my 19 and 23-year-old. And I also know people who didn't have a bank account. So I know that sounds kind of like wild to some people, but I think we know that there's a wide range of people. So absolutely, Amy, I would say use as many things as you can. Make sure it's in as many languages as you're able to accommodate. I think we want people to know that they're welcome. And the first way that we tell them that they're welcome is by trying to speak in their language, doing things that are culturally sensitive, and being mindful that there's more than one way to participate. So I hope that that's a good one. And Michelle says 70% of their student body is Latino, and most of the parents don't speak or read English. Any ideas to bridge that language gap so we can unify our parents? That's an excellent question. I would start by having a frank discussion with your principal and your board, because your principal probably is at most of your meetings, and just saying as much, we want to get more families involved, but we know that the language barrier is massive. And then I think the next thing to do after you've kind of had that discussion, start asking more questions, finding, if you have board members that do speak Spanish, fluently, or if you're looking for people to kind of be on, I think you broach people, you meet, your potential members, and you say, hey, this is what a need is. Are you guys able to help? And then start asking those questions. Maybe it could be that everything needs to be translated all the time in both languages. Maybe you do need more representation on your board from people who are, native Spanish speakers. And then culturally, maybe things are different enough. I do stuff from, I think, a very, kind of American, I don't even know what that would be. I don't think I would know what to do that would be culturally sensitive or more sensitive. So I think you have to ask those questions. And we all know too, Latino is just a label for a lot of other things. There could be some real serious, needs that maybe you're not aware of, or concerns that you're not aware of. And it could be aligned with maybe, whether or not they were American born versus, from Mexico versus Nicaragua or someplace else. So you have to kind of tease that out a little bit. I know that that wasn't an answer, but I hope that that was somewhat helpful. And if it wasn't, feel free to hit me up again, maybe separately, so I don't feel like a dud in front of our peers, but I'll move on and then I'll stop again for some questions. Thank you guys again for the great suggestions and the questions. Really, really good stuff. If your PTA does not include a membership committee, maybe discuss with your executive board forming one. Again, I think a lot of times, you know, if you have the benefit of having a huge board and active volunteers, this may be easy to achieve. If right now you're rolling your eyes and be like, girl, we were lucky to get a president. Yes, I feel you. I hear you and I've been there. I'm just saying, if this is within your means, this could be a helpful thing. Even just one or two parents, again, in the case of, you know, maybe Latino parents, or if you have a school that has a high Japanese speaking population, or, you know, Arabic speaking population, you may want to buddy up and see if there are people who are willing to like help you write the copy for the flyer, or, you know, help inform your decision on the design. Like there's, you know, there's other ways you can get crafty, and people like to be helpful, generally, I would say. Develop a plan with your president, your principal, and the membership committee, again, if you have one. And successful committees have a theme generally, which they don't have to, but it is kind of fun. Themes are fun, especially at the elementary level. Ugh, love it. And involve your principal and the students, and teachers really are key. So, you know, providing or looking for input from some of your teachers, or maybe you have like a teacher rep that comes to your meetings, is a good one. I'd urge you to set some goals, because goals are great and they kind of drive us forward when we kind of lose momentum. So, you know, goals to increase your membership by a certain percentage year over year. Please don't go flat. Please don't go flat. Increase. We need more members always. Also, maybe to have 100% teachers and staff members. And you could even, again, ask, if teachers aren't joining, why don't they join? What would incentivize them to join? What could persuade them to join? What are the limitations there? And to successfully reach out and include previous unrepresented members of the population. I'm thinking right now in specific of like families that have kids with special needs, cognitive disabilities. There are kids in your school community that you may not see if you don't have a full inclusion school, kids that have autism, or maybe Down syndrome, or kids who are deaf or hard of hearing. There's a whole range of students who we maybe don't do a good enough job of engaging. Trying to engage their families and find that bridge. Again, your principal is going to be an incredible resource, because they probably have groups or, parent committees, or, advisory councils or something. Tap into that if you can, and see how you can get more input, feedback on your board. And then there is also some membership planning tools. Again, I will send that to you and show a little bit of stuff to you as well. Develop a fun aspect of your campaign. People like to do stuff that's fun. Nobody wants to do stuff that's boring. I feel like that's not rocket science. That's just how it is. So have a theme and some incentives. Again, the incentives will have to be age appropriate and largely executed probably between your board and your president, your board and your principal. And you can't spend money or just come up with plans willy-nilly. You really should have, right now, as you start thinking about what you want to do, start sketching a rough outline. In August, I want to do this. In September, we want to do this. And this, I'm going to do this. And then start thinking about, what are the other important tasks that you would want to put to that. If in August, you're doing a registration table, okay, what day is that going to be? How many people am I going to need? What kind of stuff do I want on my table? How much will that cost? Do I need to do flyers? Where can I do free flyers? All those questions. And then do that throughout throughout your plan. And before you know it, you've got, it's mostly done except for doing it. So spend some time right now planning. Again, think about developing your budget. So every unit is a little different, but generally speaking, this is around the time your incoming board starts looking at the budget. They're using this year's budget as their basis. And then they may be, hopefully, asking you for input like, hey, is this still the number that you're expecting to spend on certificates and pins or whatever? And if there's, not that discussion, you should absolutely ask the question, hey, what's my budget? What's expected to be spent on this budget? What is the approval process for this budget? So that way you can make sure you get your slice of the pie and you can do the job that you want, and you won't be bummed later on when they're like, we can't afford $5,000 for a disco ball. So anyhow, on to the next thing. Also use your council and district due dates to create your membership calendar. Again, those kind of milestones, like when things are going to be due. to your council, you want to have that on your radar so that you're running your contest, your raffle, your whatever part of your campaign in enough time to be able to get back to, get that money to your treasurer so they have enough time to get it to the council. And that also means probably coordinating with your president and your treasurer and probably financial secretary and figuring out when they need that due. So that way you guys are always aligned. There shouldn't be surprises. Don't be surprised. Please don't be surprised. And then determine how you're going to reach all prospective members. So right now you're like, I'm just the membership chair. I'm going to run some fun contest. That's cool. But also, how are you going to reach said members? So if you're new to your unit and you've never done this before, or even if you're not so new, but you've still never done this before, touch base with your unit president and your principal again, and find out how they communicate with all of the families and guardians at your school. So you may find that, at some units, they all go through their school's communication system. Maybe your unit already has its own email system. If you're looking for one, let me know. I can recommend some that are not too pricey and fairly easy to use. You can also use totems, built-in one. You can buy like a crud ton of credits, and then it'll do some magic stuff for you on the back end. It's very great. So anyway, I won't jump into that too much more. And if you have social media campaigns or social media, who posts it, what's the turnaround time? What do you need to provide them? Start getting all that now, so that way you're not missing one tool in the toolbox. All the stuff that's available, who's going to post what, when they need it to be posted, when they're going to send that email out, how many emails you want to send. Like, it's going to be great. You're going to love it. Membership campaign plans must also be approved by your executive board. So I said that at the beginning, I'll say that throughout. We are just one member, and our board has hopefully by this point put our preliminary agenda in front of our budget in front of our association, voted for programs and things like that. So that approval gives us the authorization to work in between those association meetings, but your board gives you the authorization to spend the money that, has been earmarked per the budget. So just don't get into hot water. I think you guys, all look like good people. I'm sure you're going to be fine. Once you have your data and you know who your potential members are, think about your game plan, including the summertime registration drives that your school are likely running. So I know there was a question earlier about what can we do? Again, this is going to look different from unit to unit. Do you have new family activities? I've known some units that do like a summertime TK, transitional kindergarten meetup. That could be a great place where you coordinate with your school and your PTA to maybe provide, waters and, sunscreen and, some games, and you use it like a networking event. Totally acceptable. Very cool idea. But again, only gets a small group. If, let's say I've been at a couple of middle schools I've known of that do this, where they have the elementary kids, like the feeder schools that are in 5th or 6th grade, depending on what your, middle school, intermediate school, whatever you guys call it, junior high. And they come and visit, for like a week or 3 days, or do a 1-day walkthrough. Those would be things you would want to do. And sometimes that happens now. And then sometimes it happens like in the fall, just before school starts, or even in the first days of school. So trying to figure out where those best opportunities are to kind of get in front of, the families who are going to be dropping off the students. Middle school gets a little trickier because parents aren't and guardians aren't dropping off their kids nearly as often, or their students as often. They have a little bit more autonomy, and they might be coming from like down the street or whatever. So in that case, you may want to think of like, what do you do to incentivize a middle schooler to take home said flyer? If you guys are sending out emails, like, how do you incentivize parents to do the thing? So you kind of, like in the middle school age, you kind of have to pump up both the student, well, probably every age, honestly, pump up the student and, get to the parents or guardians via email, and kind of double up on the communication. Because I can tell you there's a lot of middle school kids of which you never see anything. That backpack is a black hole. So just kind of thinking through some of the barriers, and again, who your audience is, that should hopefully lead you to kind of some of these answers on what would be effective. At very minimum, I would say, if you guys are running a registration drive, making sure that you have your flyer in there. My favorite kind of flyer is the one that lists in quick bullet points and kind of a cute font what we actually do in no uncertain terms. We fund and support the library by being, we volunteer and we run the library. We pay for the science lab and we run all the art programs and provide all the docents. We, host this and that and this and that, and you put everything on there and blow them away with how amazing you guys are. Will you help us continue the good work? Join our PTA, $10. Here's the QR code. Here's the link. Here's the drop-off spot. Cash, check, money, Venmo, we don't care. Just, well, not Venmo, PayPal probably. Send it our way. Easy. And you do that and you'll get a bunch of people, and then you have to keep reaching out, so it's not a one and done. And I would say, if there are tables or opportunities for you guys to co-host or, be present. And if there is like a new parent welcome or a new family welcome or a new student welcome, make sure that you have your pitch ready, tight, exciting. If your president is an amazing front man and wants to deliver that for you guys, totally cool. They're not required to. If you have somebody else who wanted to do the peppy awesomeness, that also works. So you've got options. Please know you have options. Yeah, so in a little while, we'll kind of talk about the planning tools. And I know we're coming up on the 1 hour, so this was 1 hour and 30. If you have to bounce because you're like, girl, this is too long, no judgment. I hope you do stay to the end, but just know that you'll still get the recording and I'm not going to hold it against you. But I do see who leaves. I'm just kidding. So anyhow, consider having a welcome committee. That's a really big one, or even a welcoming person who's dedicated to being your one person who should be at like the door at every event, because being greeted by another human being is stupid nice. Like, it is just so nice, right? You want to create a welcoming atmosphere, you got to be welcoming. Smiles, friendly hellos, welcoming people, asking them their name, what grade is your child in, what teacher, oh, how amazing, have you been here before, is this your whatever? Whoever your Gabby people are, the nicest people, they're on that committee. They're their welcoming crew, and they're not responsible for anything else. They're just there to welcome, just there to love on your members and would-be members. Continue to remind folks about what your PTA does throughout the year. Again, people are not always listening to every single thing we tell them throughout the year. Every time you guys do something, I would recommend that you make sure that it's always compliments of the PTA, run by the PTA, provided by the PTA, supported by the members of this PTA. Don't forget to sing your praises, because nobody else is going to do it, possibly, maybe your principal, if they're like super fans. Yeah, so, and make it easy. Again, not everyone has a check or cash on them. Not everyone uses a credit card. Some people have lots of reasons for how they spend money and don't. Make sure that Totem is a part of your toolbox, but not the only tool. And avoid PTA lingo. So kind of like I started at the beginning, just trying to give you guys a rundown of glossary. It's really important. These parents and guardians don't know what the heck we're talking about. Don't throw out acronyms. Don't tell them CAPTA. Tell them California State PTA if that's what you mean. Tell them, pay us your $10 dues and we will make sure you get X, Y, and Z. But don't give them a bunch of acronyms and names that they don't understand. Make it accessible to everybody. Pitch the incentives. There are perks to being a member, discounts to the California State PTA. Sometimes your council has some goodies. Again, you might have some goodies that maybe you've secured. And make sure, again, you know about the due dates for the various council, state, and district contests. I'm gonna take a deep breath. Let's see, anything else? All right, I think we're in a good shape right now. Again, if I didn't answer your question, feel free to pop it to the top. I won't feel insulted. I'm going to post some links in the chat for you guys, and this is what I'm going to walk you through. I will also follow it up with an email afterwards, so you guys don't have to even worry about thinking about this. So, as I mentioned before, oh wait, am I there yet? No, almost there yet. Okay, as I mentioned before, not all people are the same. Look at who has traditionally joined your PTA and who makes up your board, and ask yourself, who could be missing? I bet you there are many, and that's okay. That's not a judgment statement. It's just what it is. For example, do you have people who identify as male on your board? I'm going to bet we don't have nearly enough men or people who identify as male on any of our boards. What about parents or guardians who have students with special needs? What about non-native English speakers, people of color, single parents or guardians? They can provide a new way of looking at how we do things and help us to grow membership and really truly engage our families so that we can support our students. So it's important to be welcoming and going the extra mile to interact with people who you don't ordinarily speak with, and asking people to join, to be part, join directly to their faces actually is a pretty powerful tool. I love volunteering. Anyone who knows me knows I have a hard time not volunteering. But I never almost sign up for anything that comes through a sign up, which is crazy. I don't know why. I don't know what the aversion is, but the minute someone sends me a text, an email, a phone call, hits me up in person, it's like, all right, girl, I'll give you a thought on this one. You hit me back later. It's probably a yes, maybe a partly yes. So words do matter. Even though your role is all about driving membership, you are also the advocate. I will say that again, you are the advocate for your members. So we all know that students are raised by parents as well as step parents, siblings, family guardians, foster parents, etc. So let's try and be sure that our flyers and our outreach, when it comes to the things we make, are inclusive of all of those different family situations. It's not a big change to refer to parents and guardians instead of just parents, right? Or a big change to refer to all of our students as students instead of children, because if I'm raising someone and they're not a kid I popped out, like my nephew or something, he's not really my child. He's my student, and he's like my nephew, but I love him. So again, just thinking about kind of the lingo. Don't be afraid to add a link between to be the link between your family and your unit leadership. You're on the front lines having those conversations. And as member chairs, you can be the one who brings that feedback back to your unit and help them to evolve their game plan so that we're truly serving all members all the time. And as we build out the incentives and member events, thinking about the accessibility, how easily accessible is it for families of all types to join, hard of hearing, visually impaired, people with noise sensitivities. There's a whole host of things that we could probably do a little bit better on. And as a membership chair, I would say an offer that you are, because you're the advocate for your members, you can be the voice that continues to say, what about? So anyhow, I hope you do have those conversations at your unit. And if you ever find that you get pushback, your council and district are here to help you kind of broach some of those tough topics. So I shared with you guys some cool little links. I'm gonna pluck one out now and share it on screen. Let's make sure I get over to the right one, and boop. So I did promise you I'd show you some tools. I want to tell you this seriously is the treasure trove. These are the goodies, my friends. And again, I'll send you these links. These are recruitment tools. So I did hear some questions about, hey, how do we do this? You're never going to, it's so beautiful. They spent so much time on all of this. I love it. So there's some You Belong in PTA programs. It's got graphics, printable flyers, customizable content. It's check, right? That's all the good stuff. I love this. There's like a 10 myths of PTA membership and truths, which I think can be kind of fun. You, at very least, your whole team should have a copy, know what it is, and be able to speak, to anybody about, oh, well, that's not what PTAs do. Actually, the truth is, blah, 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 blah. I love that they offer it in both English and Spanish. I would love more languages, but I'll take what I can get, right? 125 ways to increase membership. So there was somebody who was like, how do we do this? These are some really great ideas, including incentive ideas. So I urge you to take a look at these. They really are super smart. I mean, I can't say enough about them. I think, enough time was spent on them. There's our current outgoing president. She's amazing. But yeah, so they kind of dive into more stuff. It's a serious rabbit hole. Like, you're going to get in there and you're going to be lost. It's going to be amazing. Lost in a good way. There's just too much. So take what you like, leave the rest. There's some other like blogs, there's letters, there's additional marketing stuff, brand guides. If you're looking for logos, like if you're like, this logo is jank as heck, I don't want to use this. A little tutorial on how to create your own QR codes. I love that. It's so easy, I feel like, but it isn't always easy, right? Tips for growing your presence online. Again, kind of shorty video, 11 minutes, only 12 views. Please watch this. Like, it is so good. Other presentations, letters. So all this stuff, you don't have to think. You can customize. You pick up the things that you think you'll like. You Frankenstein it by adding the things that you feel are important to you in your group. Try out different messages. Try to pay attention to what works and what doesn't. You don't have to recreate the wheel. They've done a lot of the work for you. So please use these if you're looking for good stuff to put on your, your website. I love that they give you a little bit, they have a really good diversity, equity, inclusion toolkit and resources. I will say that too, but this is just a little snippet. So this is the section you'd want to go if you want to get real deep into it. I encourage you all to. And then I love this too. It's just kind of an infographic on, who are the people in our PTAs. This is kind of a national view. when we think about students of colors or white students, or, kids who maybe kind of fall a little lower on the socioeconomic status front, this stuff is great intel because it kind of gives you like an idea about, the people that we reach or serve and maybe sometimes don't do as good a job with. So again, some of this is just helpful info stuff and a lot of really good things. Member survey template, your goal worksheet, I talked about that, and a goal plan. I'll take a look at these because they're really worth seeing. Oops, hold on. Oh, I probably should have saved that beforehand. I apologize. That was a rookie move. And it's recorded for all to see now, so fun. So as that opens up, yeah. Okay, so let me stop sharing real quick and share this other little handy dandy plan. Let's see. Oop. Okay, sorry. And so this little the growth plan worksheet, love it. It walks you through kind of all of the stuff that you would want to know. Some info on your, info on your population, which again, you can get from your principal, family sizes. This really helpful in just, again, kind of deciding who is in your community, and you can build on other ones, competition in the community. It is kind of competition because we're competing for volunteers and monies, but it doesn't have to be adversarial. Yeah, I think that's right. So let me stop sharing this for a second. I'll give you another look at the other document that they had, which hopefully you guys will also find to be useful. This is the goal worksheet. And again, you don't have to like memorize any of this. You will get the recording. You will get all these goodies. I promise, I promise. And let me share this one with you real quick. Is that right? Oh, I should open it. Okay, it's opening for realsies now. And now I'll share it. Okay, and this is your goal worksheet. It looks like a lot, but look, they've already done the math for you. You could go back once you have these numbers, if you don't have them already somewhere, put them in, add your goal for 2023-24, what your stretch goal is. So if you hit that number, what's the next thing you're going for? What's all your enrollment? If you can hit a 100% enrollment, that's amazing. That doesn't mean that every single student has one, but it means that your enrollment matched the number of the total student population. That's pretty slick stuff. I will tell you what, again, a kind of like a sampling of your members and, again, keeping track of it. This is really cool. And the nice thing about this becomes part of your procedure book, right? So when you pass it off to the next person, this is what they have to work from. And I think that that's awesome. So if nobody did you a kindness of hooking you up with good data, good information, don't be bad. Don't just hook them up with some good info also. You know what I mean? Do them a solid is what I'm going to say. Let me get back on to sharing from the website. Okay, we're back. So yeah, lots of really, really good stuff here. Oh, hold on. Sorry, sharing the wrong thing, the wrong screen. All right, are you back yet? Maybe. Nope, not yet. Hold on. Sorry. Ugh. Technology. Oh, Nan. All right, for realsies, it's happening. Again, apologies. All right. So back at the National Leader Toolkit. So they have tons of really great stuff. They're, in addition to that, let me find my right screen here. Too many screens, she says. And, oh snap, hold on, sorry. Nan got lost in the weeds. I wish I could tell you I thought that was something that doesn't happen all that often, but for anyone who knows me, it's my MO. Let me stop sharing for, oh no, here we go. Okay, phew. Sorry. Rookie moves. All right, so we have another site popping up again, National PTA, because they really do invest heavily in this, and I just appreciate them for it. Other goodies you can still grab, add to your website, to your email campaigns, to your social media, so you don't ever have to really recreate the wheel. And then this handy thing here, you click on it, is a full campaign toolkit. It has some of the stuff we talked about, plus more stuff, plus cool ideas, and then other goodies. You see what I'm saying? Like, it never ends. There's so much stuff. And again, all in English and Spanish, which I wholeheartedly appreciate. Implementation checklist, messaging framework, email signatures. You don't need me. This does the work. Campaigns without visuals. I mean, it just goes on because it's awesome. So please, please, please do check out these resources. Again, take what you like, leave the rest. No one's gonna, knock you for giving these a try. And the last really big tool that I would say, you're going to hear this training, but the human brain only remembers a fraction of what we hear. So doubtful that any of you, unless you have like insanely good memories, like photographic memories type of stuff is what I'm talking about, will remember what I'm yammering on about. That's okay, no offense. But hopefully when you hear it again, when you go to another training or listen to one of these awesome recordings that I'm going to show you, you'll give some thought to, oh, wait, I think I did hear this. Wait, didn't that crazy lady with the weird hair mention something before? Yes, the answer is probably yes. So anyhow, you can go to this link that I provided you, it's the leadership website that the California State PTA put together. You can create an account. Just use yes, you can see my personal email address. You just create an email account, again, with your personal email address, probably, because again, the emails get, if you're using a PTA email, it gets routed. Then you log in. So you just register. There is one bit of information. You need your unit California ID, which is found in your bylaws. Haha. And then this is like, again, so good. They've revamped this or created this whole new system, and it's beautiful. Ideas for, there was a recording that they did last year for a membership idea exchange, ways to increase membership, theme ideas. I remember seeing that in the chat. Teacher membership, student membership, engaging men in PTA, and visual identity, and there's other good stuff. And then I love this. They also recorded all the trainings that they have recorded are here. There were random questions that were asked during the open hours that they hosted. 101 for the last term, but nothing really changes with membership, so it's still going to be pretty good. Totem onboarding and basic training, again, fairly recent. This will be a good one, especially if you're really new. If you happen to also be a council leader, because I know we have some here, another good one. If you're a member chair and thinking to yourself, what could I do next? That would be amazing. Council is a great option, and you could always take a look at this and get a sense of what those responsibilities look like. So those are some gold tools, and there's even more training that's available on the national pta.org website. So let me hop back over to my little thing here. Where am I? Okay, now I'm back. Thank you. So those were kind of some ideas. Those were some thoughts that we had. There's one more link that I'm going to provide you. This we did talk about, so I'm not going to go in, like open a whole separate one, but this was the 25 way. Maybe I will open it. Maybe. Let's see, go back over here. Blah, blah, blah. I think this one does open on the web page. Okay, yes. And this was the 21 ways to increase membership. This was just one of those handouts that I was telling you, but I love this. In-person ideas, virtual, hybrid stuff, which I did see a question about. Other kind of little 15-minute videos, DIY kits, and then I love how they've kind of given subsections. So this is just general. This is like all the stuff you could do for anybody, any day, period. How to take advantage of the PTA network to show your value. Also a good one. Some ideas just about, talking yourself up, being welcoming and opening. Being welcoming and open. That's another great one. Teachers and administrators specifically, students specifically, and community engagement. It goes on. More stuff on communications, diversifying your membership. So good. Contest and drawing, like celebrations and offerings. So good. I can't even say enough about it. It's just that good. So I would say those are kind of all the tools that you really could use. There are more, but I think that those are really kind of where the money's at, and probably where you're going to be best served by spending your time. I can't say enough about growing your skills. You guys are here right now. This training was meant to focus kind of on the essentials of membership training. But I'll also send you all these links, and there's snazzy, they have snazzy marketing training, there's communication training, there's totem training. You saw that already. So our incoming, because again, this is my second year of a 2-year term, your 33rd district membership chair will often reach out to like councils and the units with like timely information and resources. So just look for that. your first line of support, if you're in council, will be your council. So please reach out to them first before, you ever hit us up. You're welcome to always ask questions or ask for things that you need, but we try to make sure that you always have that partnership with your council, because they're really going to be the ones who have a really clear view on what's happening within your school district. And, but know that we're also here to support you. So you can reach out at any time, and, we'll try our very best to, answer whatever your questions might be. And then, lastly is this little quickie checklist. I kind of think, these are the things that I would recommend doing here and now. Meeting with your last year's chair, maybe thinking about forming a committee if that's kind of your jam, or at least enlisting help from a couple of people who don't mind helping with things that you don't like doing, i.e. entering database stuff, for instance. Meeting with your president-elect and your principal. Starting your planning, again, using kind of all these tools, the goal setting, the profiles of your families and community members within your school community. Starting to think and ask your council, or ask your president if they've heard anything about when membership cards are going to be released, membership envelopes. Can you guys order them? If this all sounds crazy, message me and I can help you with some of those questions as well. Know that you probably won't get the contest or perks from us until probably the late summer or early fall. And right now your focus should really be on the back to school drive and kind of the summer registration. So maybe that's your outgoing membership chair's problem right now, but maybe see if you can help, or at least shadow and see what they're doing. That way you have one piece of the puzzle kind of like in your head as you move through your year. And then when you come to this time next year, you'll have a foggy memory, but you'll remember some stuff, I promise. And then just make time to kind of review the membership resources that we've just talked about. Again, there's a lot, so pace yourself, but I would recommend doing it now and then getting familiar with all that's out there, jotting down the notes on what you think you might want to use, or saving the links, or downloading something to a dedicated file, and then moving forward after that. So I'm going to stop sharing, pop my big mug back on the camera. I hope that was helpful. I know that there were some other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions if you guys have any. Thank you for the kudos, you guys. Love, love, love. When doing manual memberships on Totem, if the only information provided on the envelope is name,